Hey everybody, Terrio here. Today we're talking about playing in the pocket, laying in the pocket. What does that mean? I'm going to tell you what I think it means. There's various ways to look at it, but I think you'll get something out of this. Pocket's so deep, I think I just found my keys. Here we go. Hey everybody, Terrio back at you. Thank you for joining me again today. Today we're talking about laying in the pocket, playing in the pocket. What does that mean? Before we get into that, I'm going to just tell you that little clip you heard was an example of playing in the pocket in a kind of Muscle Shoals, Memphis kind of way. That's taken from my course on TRUEFIRE called Rhythm MOJO. There's a link below. It's one of their best sellers. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. It's been a good course. A lot of things I talk about are in that course. I use that clip because I thought it was applicable for today's little talk about laying in the groove. Now, that is an example of kind of laying back more. You've heard that before? Hey, lay back on it. Hey, you're ahead, you're rushing. Play more on top of it. Play behind it. You know, you're dragging, you're rushing. Those are things that are minute descriptions of tempo and where you feel things. And everybody is going to have a different feel. But generally, depending on a genre of music, there's certain parameters, certain things we can aim for. There's a certain, benchmark. For instance, if you're playing a Sex Pistols or a Ramones cover band, you ain't worried about laying back on the beat. You're going to play on top. Rock is generally on top. But that's what gives a player a feel. That's what a lot of the great studio musicians we all know and love, and great players, it's not even always about the technique. It's about the feel and how you lay back. Now, we're going to talk rhythm guitar, but this is also applicable to soloing and single note lines as well. Let me give you a little quick story. I remember when I first started playing with the Neville Brothers, there's a tune called One Love, Bob Marley, and People Get Ready, right? The Curtis Mayfield. We did a medley of that. It was literally my second, third gig. On that tune, the guitar would start it off cold, and it was something like this. Something like that. It's been a long time. But so I started it and I just saw, four Neville Brothers all turn around at me and look at me at the same time. And the drummer is giving me a very ugly stare. And I'm going, oh, what? And I'm 24, 25 years old. Only white dude on stage going, whoa, man. So, we get through the tune. And after the tune, Aaron Neville comes over and he goes, hey, man, it's okay. But it's kind of fast. Lay back on it, right? There's one. Cyril Neville comes over and goes, hey, Shane, man, it's cool, but, you got to lay back, bro. You're rushing. Okay. Charles Neville, Shane Terrio, you're rushing that shit. You got to lay back. Okay, Charlie, I got it. Drummer, man, you got to listen to that. He was really on my ass. Here comes Art Neville, founder of the Meters after the show. He comes up to me, hey, bro, check it out, Shane. And I go, I know, Art, man. I rushed it, man. I won't do it again. I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to lock it. I was so scared. And Art goes, no. I want you to play that shit like that every night. That's exactly how it's supposed to sit. So there's a crazy story about laying in the pocket. What's pocket to one person may not be the other. I don't even know how I slept that night, but I got through it. So that's one crazy story about pocket. It's different for everybody. But we can generally agree what feels good for certain styles of music, all right? So it's something that's happened the last 20, 25 years is the advent of the DAW, the Digital Audio Workstation. I think that's what it stands for. Pro Tools, Logic, those kind of things, where you can physically see a grid and you can see bar lines and you can see the waveform of what you're playing and how it lays on that grid. And boy, oh boy, did that open up a can of worms with producers and engineers who judge players, especially drummers, by how well they play right on top that grid. Now, just because you play right on top the grid, it doesn't mean it feels good. You know, there's a lot of blurred things in between those lines that make it feel right. So I'm going to show you how this sounds. It's weird, I just said that. I'm going to show you how it sounds, but I will. I'm going to play some things different ways over a click, and then we're going to look at the grid, and I'm going to show you what it means to play behind, play forward, play on top, lay back, play right on top, you know. And like I said, different drummers feel things different ways, different guitar players. Generally, it's better. I always lay back. It's just because I'm, you know, a New Orleans cat, and I played with all those guys, and it's just the way I hear things. But here in LA, I get called out sometimes like, hey, man, you're laying back too much. I think I have a pretty good time, but sometimes they're right. So it just depends. So I'm just going to take a simple A minor to a G. Just going to use the top part. Something like that. The idea is, you know, not to make the greatest riff ever, to show you what it feels like. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's kind of my default internal clock. If somebody said, hey, do your thing to this click track, that's kind of where I feel that. So now let me give you an example of playing it. I'm going to try to lock it as exactly, as precisely as I can. 1, 2, 3, 4. What I was doing there was I was trying to what's called bury the click, where you don't even hear the click. I'm trying to play to where the click disappears. All right. Now I'm going to play behind even more than I did initially. 1, 2, 3, 4. See, you hear how that feels? Totally different. It's not dragging. Some people might say dragging depending on the music, but that's got a little bit of a sexier thing to it. Now, let me play ahead of the click. It's really hard for me to do this. I have to force myself. 1, 2, 3, 4. That was ahead. You hear how it was flamming a little bit? It doesn't necessarily mean it's not good. It's just because we're going to take the click away eventually in the track, right? But it is going to feel different. That's way behind the beat. Still feels good. Let's see if I can rush it one time. 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to go back to just the way I felt it. These things are subtle, but hopefully you hear it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm going to briefly show you what it visually looks like. Here's Pro Tools session. This green track is our metronome, and you can see each little mark here is the audio, the waveform of the metronome clicking. Those little faint lines, those are downbeats. 1, 2, 3, 4. This purple track is my guitar track. And you can see where I'm playing on the downbeats. You can literally see if I'm locked or not. So this is the first one I did where I said it was kind of my default clock. Let's take a listen and analyze it. Like so, 1, 2, 3, 4. So those are 2 downbeats in a row, and you can see it's right on the grid. Right, yeah, that's right on the grid. Right on the grid. That one's dead on the grid. So it's pretty good pass. Now let's see, I forget what I did the second time around. What was that? Playing it, I'm going to try to lock it as exactly, as precisely. Okay, this one I tried to lock it more. Downbeat. There's 3 downbeats in a row. 3 more, yeah, those are locked pretty good. You could actually zoom in more and see that one's a little ahead, but that's very minute. Now let's go to something more drastic. Let me play ahead of the click. Ahead of the click. When they say really ahead, awesome. So you're actually ahead of the grid, okay? So you can see those are ahead. It doesn't look like much, but yeah, that one's way ahead. I did that on purpose. I don't have time that bad. You can see how those are ahead. So that's just an example of playing on top of the beat, playing behind the beat, playing, rushing, laying back. For me, the kind of music I like, the kind of music I do my best stuff on, I'm going to lay back more. I think it feels a little better. It's kind of like they tell singers, if you're going to sing flat or sharp, it's better to sing a little flat. Neither one of them is good, but something about singing sharp is more abrasive to the ear, more offensive. It's kind of like that with me. I mean, most guys, most kind of amateur musicians, they tend to rush more. So if I could give you some advice, it's try to lay back. You don't want to drag. You don't want to make it sound contrived. It comes from practice. It comes from playing with great drummers. But sometimes this stuff will backfire. Like, for instance, when I was doing a lot of, when I was living up in New York, I was doing a lot of those live from Daryl's house gigs. There were tapings, and, I was playing with all these great New York musicians. New York guys tend to play more on top the beat, not rushing. Still feels good, but it's that aggressive thing where it's, I'm right on the grid. This is where time is. That's the way the New York cats do, most of them, except for Sean Pelton. I did a record with Sean and Mark Egan recently. You might want to check out some beautiful music. And Sean is more like a Keltner where he lays back. Anyway, I went down to New Orleans after doing all those gigs in New York, and I had a gig with Dr. John. And I'm watching, I call him Mac, I'm watching him go for this piano fill. I know it's like slow motion. I can see him. I'm standing 3 feet from his hand. And I'm watching him about to land on this chord, and I'm thinking, man, he's going to be way behind that chord. I better... And right when Mac's hand landed, the drummer's cymbal went right with him. Boom! The great Herlin Riley on drums. And that was a lesson, because I flammed like crazy because I had my New York time on. And it was so far behind, but those guys were like that. And I used to be like that, but I'd moved to New York. It's a different energy, different thing going on. Depends on where you live, too. There is a lot of truth to that. If you're doing session work, you want to be able to play all over the place. You want to be able to play right on the grid. A lot of producers I work for, it has to be right on the grid, must adhere to the grid, drives me nuts. You don't hire Jim Keltner to play on the grid. It's not why I got into this stuff. So I hope this stuff kind of rubs off on you, and I hope you got something out of it, and hey, give me a like, subscribe if you dig this. It really helps me build the channel. It's getting harder and harder for me to do these on a regular basis. I'm starting to get really busy, and I am a full-time musician. I try to bring you guys some great content. So give me a like, subscribe if you want to see more. I appreciate it. Hey, one more thing. Would you guys like to see maybe a live stream every once in a while? If I can figure out how to do that, I will, I'll try to make that happen. If I know I have a little bit of an audience, that would be great. And anyway, see you next time.